I'm just finishing up my work when I hear the vibrational hum of the garage door opening below the master bedroom. I whip my head up, looking at the windows that face the street. The blinds are drawn, but I see the bright flash of headlights around their edges. Someone's pulling into the driveway. Despite all my years doing this work, panic still threatens to overtake my reasoning mind. Panic never helps anything. But the woman isn't supposed to be home yet, not for another hour. Stay calm, I tell myself. Pack up and get out and stay calm. I turn my attention back to the task at hand, thankful that I'm nearly done already. If she'd come home 5 minutes earlier, I would have had to abandon the payment, and my client wouldn't have been happy about that. With no time to do anything else, I pull my bloody gloves off and toss them down next to the payment. Then I wrap up the payment and stick it in my special backpack. I don't have time to clean the tools, so I put them back in their pouch, still bloody. Below me, in the garage, a car door shuts. After stuffing my tools into the front pocket of my backpack, I pull my mask down over my head. Then I pull on a fresh pair of gloves and retrieve my silenced pistol from where I set it at the foot of the bed. The door from the garage opens downstairs, and I hear footsteps on tile. I pull my backpack on and move out of the master bedroom as quietly as I can. The floor creaks under my weight.
Babe?
The woman calls from downstairs.
You still awake?
I move down the hall toward the stairs. A light over the stairs comes on, and I duck into the nearest doorway, which belongs to a home office. I ease the door almost closed, leaving a crack of about 3 inches. Then I notice the clock on the wall. It's 45 minutes later than I thought. How the hell did I lose 45 minutes?
I had to get out of there.
The woman says.
Stacy was driving me nuts. She never stops talking about her kids. And it's always the same stories, over and over again. God, this is why I don't want kids.
The woman's voice grows louder as she comes up the stairs. I position myself behind the door, pointing my pistol at the flimsy wood. I don't want to have to kill this woman. She didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't owe my client anything. Not like her husband does, or did, now that I've collected payment. But if it comes down to it, I'll have no choice but to kill her. She slows as she comes to the home office doorway. Maybe she's not used to seeing the door partway closed. Maybe it's always open. Or maybe she senses me here, behind the door. One thing I've learned in all my years working this job is that people can sense when danger is nearby. Most of them are pretty bad at recognizing that sense for what it is, but not all of them. I hear her stop in the hallway.
Babe?
I slip my finger into the trigger guard and wait. If the door moves, I'll have no choice but to shoot. A long moment passes. There's a creak as the woman moves down the hallway, away from me, toward the master bedroom. When I'm sure she's several feet away, I open the door and peer out, seeing her back. She turns into the master bedroom as I slip out of the office and head down the stairs. As soon as I reach the first floor, a scream pierces the previously quiet house. I slip out the back door, and the woman's screams are dampened slightly. As I move toward the back fence, I put my gun away. By the time I jump the fence and traverse the neighbor's yard, the screams are barely audible at all. My vehicle, a late model minivan, sits just where I left it, parked on the street in the middle-class neighborhood. I put my backpack in the cargo area, get in, and start the engine. I don't hear sirens until I'm a mile away from the house. The meeting place is outside a construction site on the south side of the city. Since it's the middle of the night, the site is empty. I pull up in my other car, a 2010 Honda sedan. As always, I have false plates on the car. I'll use it for 2 more meetings before I sell it and get another sedan of a different year and a different model. I can see that my client is already here, parked outside the locked fence where the skeleton of a building sticks out of the ground, begging to be made complete with flesh and a purpose. I already have my mask on. It's not like the simple ski mask I wear on my jobs. It's a realistic silicone mask of an old man with gray hair and a gray mustache, the kind made by visual effects people in Hollywood. My client is wearing a similarly realistic mask, but his is of a bald black man. I know he's white because I've seen his hands, but otherwise I have no idea what he looks like, and I don't want to know, just like I don't want him to know what I look like. I pull up next to his truck, pop the trunk, get out.
Close one?
He asks.
How'd you know?
I say, pulling the box out of the trunk.
Apparently the guy's wife glanced out the window and saw someone hopping her back fence. Someone dressed in black and wearing a backpack. She came home an hour early.
I lie, not wanting to admit I lost track of time. Couldn't be helped. I step over and put the box on his open tailgate. He shrugs.
Just afraid you're losing your touch.
I look into his eyes. They're brown and carry the weight of a challenge.
If you're not happy with my work, just say so. I'm ready to terminate this relationship. I'll survive. I always do.
It's a bluff, but one I'm willing to make after the night I've had. My client smiles, the lips of his mask moving slightly upward with the motion.
No need. These things happen. Just, this kind of work gets to people after a while. I've seen it happen. Some people can only take it for so long. I'll be sure and let you know when it's getting to me,
I say.
That's just the thing. Most people don't realize it until it's too late. And then they crash and burn, or they get caught.
I shrug.
That's why we take precautions. I've never seen your face. I don't know your name. All I know is that your money spends. Speaking of which.
My client looks into my eyes for a long moment before reaching into a back pocket and pulling out an envelope. He hands it to me. I pocket it and turn back to my car, shutting the trunk. As I'm about to get into the driver's seat, my client says,
I'll have another one for you next Friday.
I'll be ready. I get into the car and drive off. My steak sizzles on the grill on my back porch. Near the steak is a line of hot dogs for the kids. I glance over the grill to see the kids playing in the pool, laughing and splashing each other. My wife sits reading a book on a lounge chair next to the pool, but far enough away that she doesn't get splashed. The smell of cooking meat makes me nauseous for a moment. I force the feeling down and take another swig of my beer. The table on the porch behind me is ready with condiments and plates and drinks. I shout for my kids to get out and dry off. It's almost time to eat. My wife starts rallying my 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, out of the pool. They come reluctantly. Soon, we're all sitting down to eat. As I cut into my steak, bile creeps up my throat. I have to swallow it down. I push the steak aside, no longer hungry at all. My wife looks at me from across the table, one eyebrow raised. She doesn't know what I do for a living. All she knows is that it's not on the up and up. We have an agreement. Bless her heart, she doesn't ask questions. As long as I keep bringing the money home. I think about what my client said 2 nights ago, about how people don't realize that the work gets to them until it's too late. After finishing off my beer, I shake my head. No, I tell myself. No way. I'm good at what I do. It doesn't bother me, never has. Maybe I'm coming down with something. A stomach bug. I glance at the steak again, thinking of the feel of the rare meat in my mouth. I jump up from my seat and step to the side of the porch before the vomit comes up.
Are you okay, Daddy?
My daughter asks. I can sense my whole family looking at me as I spit stringy ropes of saliva into the grass.
I'm okay,
I say.
Just a little sick. Eat your lunch.
My wife steps up beside me and rubs my back. What's going on? She whispers.
You sick? I'm fine, I say. Too much beer today.
I know she doesn't believe me. Probably because I don't believe it myself. The grift is simple. Disturbingly so, really. See, most people think you can't be tracked on the dark web, but that's not true. Sure, it's hard to track people, to see what they're doing on those parts of the internet that aren't accessible by traditional means. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And my client knows how to do it. The people he targets are those who go onto the dark web to get their kicks. And I'm not just talking about buying drugs or ordering prostitutes. The people he targets are those who visit sites that specialize in disturbing pictures of minors or have videos of people being tortured and killed. Some of these people visit sites that allow their users to vote in real time on what happens to the poor bastard who's being tortured. Then my client hacks their computers and collects information on them. Once he has enough info, he blackmails these people, threatening to release their dirty secrets until they pay him. Most of them pay up, but those who don't get a visit from me. And I collect payment from them no matter what. But it seems I'm losing my touch, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to do something drastic to be able to keep doing my job. I can't lose a step. I can't make mistakes. I have to act with surgical precision. Otherwise, I'll be locked up or killed, leaving my family to fend for themselves. I can't have that. I won't let it happen. But as I'm working on the latest job, I find that I've lost time again. I'm in the man's bedroom, and the clock on his bedside table reads 9:32. Somehow, I've let half an hour slip by. I should have been out of the house by now, payment snugly in my backpack. And although this guy doesn't have a wife or kids or a live-in girlfriend, he does have associates that he was supposed to meet at 9 o'clock. His are the kind of associates that will come calling to see what's up. The kind of associates who carry guns all the time, and who won't hesitate to shoot an intruder. Turning back to the task at hand, I force myself to focus. I've made it most of the way through the man's lower left leg. I don't have to worry about him waking up. The drugs I gave him will last for another hour at least. But that's not what I'm worried about. I need to be done and gone in the next 5 minutes. The leg comes off, and I leave the tourniquet where it is above his knee, staunching the flow of blood. I'm not trying to kill him. I just want to collect payment. Granted, some of the targets die from blood loss if they don't wake up to call 911 or someone doesn't discover them. But I'm not about to shed tears over pedophiles and psychopaths. I transfer the severed lower leg off the bloody plastic sheeting on the bed and onto a clean sheet of plastic on the floor. As I put the leg down, I hear a shout from outside.
Yo, Leroy! Where the fuck are you?
A man shouts.
Answer your goddamn phone!
Another man's voice calls. The doorbell dings repeatedly and there's loud knocking.
Leroy!
I finish wrapping the leg in plastic and then put it in my backpack, which is also a cooler with dry ice in it to keep the meat fresh. Maybe they don't have a key, I think. Just as soon as I finish the thought, I hear the front door open. I put the bone saw and my other tools, still bloody, in their pouch. Then I put the pouch in my backpack. I do the same with my bloody gloves. I'll just have to get another new backpack. There's no time.
Leroy, your car's outside. I know you're here.
One of the men from downstairs shouts.
What the hell are you doing?
I zip up my backpack and pull out my silenced pistol, setting it aside while I pull the straps over my shoulders. The house I'm in is a McMansion, and I'm on the second floor in the master bedroom. I can hear the two guys walking around downstairs, their voices low now. Maybe they sense something's wrong. After pulling my ski mask back on, I creep out into the hall. I'm hoping to do the same thing I did with the last job. Hide and wait for them to pass, then make my escape. I choose a door and step into a room that's empty, except for a huge TV affixed to the wall and a large, lavish couch. I close the door a crack, step back a couple of feet, and aim my pistol at the door, listening. It doesn't take the men long to finish searching downstairs and start upstairs. They're silent now. They know something's wrong.
Stay here.
One of them says when they reach the top of the stairs.
Shit.
I turn and look at the two windows in the room. They look out over a sheer drop to hedges below. Thinking it's my best way out, I slowly unlock and slide one open before a shout comes from down the hall.
Jesus Christ, they took his leg! What?
The guy outside my room calls.
Search the house!
The other man shouts. The screen has to be popped out for me to get out the window, and there's no way to do it quietly. I push the screen out, wincing at the noise it makes. Then I stick the gun into my back waistband before I climb out the window. I'm lowering myself down when the door to the room bursts open. A man wearing black slacks and a maroon silk shirt barges in, lifting his gun as he sees me. I drop just before he fires, landing awkwardly in the bushes below. I quickly grab my gun and point it up at the window. As soon as the guy pokes his head out, I fire, purposely hitting the side of the window frame and making him duck his head back in. Knowing I've bought myself some time, I extricate myself from the bushes and walk backward through the yard, firing twice more at the open window when the guy tries to get a bead on me. As I make it to the gate that leads to the paved alley behind the house, I hear the guy inside yelling about where I am and where I'm going. I back through the gate and start to run, suddenly noticing that my left ankle is messed up. I must have twisted it when I landed in the bushes. Thanks to the adrenaline, I haven't felt it until now. Ignoring the pain, I limp run down the alley and turn right at the exit, heading for my van parked on the parallel street. Reaching the van, I jump in the driver's seat, tossing my backpack into the seat next to me and keeping my gun handy. I start the engine and hit the gas. Before I've made it 10 yards, an SUV comes screeching around the corner behind me, rocking on its struts. I take a left out of the neighborhood, the SUV gaining on me. A glance in my side mirror shows me a man hanging out the passenger window, gun in hand. I duck just as he fires. The van's window shatters with the bullet impact. Sticking my gun out the window, I fire wildly at the oncoming SUV. And I get lucky. A couple of my shots hit the vehicle's windshield and the SUV swerves. It jumps the curb and smashes into a light pole doing nearly 80 miles an hour. The crash causes the SUV to flip, and the guy hanging out the window flies out and smacks the pavement like a rag doll. Jesus, I say, looking in the rearview mirror as the scene of the crash fades into the darkness behind me. Too close. Too damn close. You're right, I say to my client 2 hours later. I think I'm losing it. I can't go on like this. I'll either end up dead or in jail. I've calmed down considerably, but I'm still pretty jittery. So what? My client asks. You're quitting? No, I say hesitantly, looking at my client's eyes, nestled in his realistic mask. This time, he's wearing a mask of a middle-aged white man with a beard and thin brown hair. I'm wearing a mask of a fat, bald white man. We're at the back of a truck stop, well away from the diesel trucks and passenger vehicles gassing up off the highway in these late-night hours. What are you saying? My client asks. I'm saying that I think I have a way to get my head right again. I'm all ears, he says. I tell him what I'm thinking. It takes a few minutes, but when I'm done, he considers it for a long moment before nodding. Okay, he says. If you think it'll help, I'm fine with it. Great, I say. That's great. I'll sort it out right now. I force myself to get out of bed at 8 the next morning, Saturday. I can hear my wife and kids downstairs in the kitchen, and I smell sausage cooking. It's a sickening smell. I get dressed in my pajamas and limp down for some quality time with my family. I'm lucky to be alive. I can't imagine leaving my family to fend for themselves. Sure, I've put money away, but it will only be enough to last them a couple of years, max. I have a life insurance policy, but it won't pay out if I get killed during the commission of a crime. It's not like I'm good at anything else. Nothing that will pay what I earn now. So it's not like I have a choice. I have to find a way to keep doing my job, even if that way sounds like the most repulsive thing in the world to me. My wife and 3 children sit at the dining room table, their plates loaded with meat and scrambled eggs.
Oh, did we wake you?
My wife asks.
I wanted you to sleep.
No, I say, smiling at her.
You didn't wake me.
I step over and grab the plate left out for me. The notion of eating meat sounds awful, but the eggs look good. As I step over to the stove to serve myself some eggs, my eyes land on an empty Ziploc bag sitting in the sink. My mouth falling open, I set the plate down absently and grab the bag out of the sink to inspect it. There's smudged writing on the front of it in marker. So smudged, you can't tell what it says anymore. Empty bag still in hand, I rush over to the freezer and yank it open, getting down to my knees to look at the very bottom shelf, where I stuck the bag of human thigh meat I brought home last night. It's gone. I'm holding the bag in my hand. I wrote, "Do not eat" on it, but it must have smudged when I stuck it in the freezer. I get to my feet and turn to face my family. I watch as my youngest son sticks a fork full of meat into his mouth, chewing happily. My daughter is almost already finished with hers. My wife looks at me strangely.
Were you saving that meat? She asks. I'm sorry. The kids were craving sausage this morning, and that was all we had.
I drop the bag to the floor. My plan to get over whatever work blockage I'm experiencing was to eat some of the meat. I wanted to prove myself that it was just meat, like pork or beef or venison. To prove to myself that I could face my fear, that the meat I took off people, the meat that my clients sold via the dark web to people who crave such things, was nothing more than an incredible rare delicacy. But I never meant for my family to eat any of it. Never in a million years. Swallowing hard, I turn back and grab my plate with a shaking hand. I load up the rest of the eggs and meat. Trying my best to smile, I join my family at the table. My kids chat as they finish eating, excited for a fun Saturday. I gather up a mouthful of meat on my fork and bring it to my mouth, hand shaking badly. I choke back a gag as the protein hits my tongue. I extract the fork and chew. It tastes like veal. I swallow and go for another bite. This time, I don't gag. Meat, I think to myself with excitement. It's just meat.
Are you okay?
My wife asks.
You looked ill for a minute there. Now you look content.
I finish chewing and then swallow my bit of human thigh. Then I sit back and look at my wife.
I'm fine,
I say with a smile. And I mean it. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out some more of my episodes here.